So Mediaite has this interesting article and interesting video clip here. Louis C.K. slams Democrats for shitting on Trump supporters. Quote, stupidest thing you can do. So here, let's see if we can get the name of the podcast. Louis C.K. is calling out Democrats for their huge mistake of shitting on people who love former President Donald Trump. C.K. recently joined Matt and Shane's secret podcast to film a series dedicated to the American presidents. So that's the podcast. Let's listen, and then I'll break it down for us.
I think a huge mistake that the Democrats made was to shit on the people who loved him. That's a dumb fucking...
Yeah, they can't stop doing it.
Basket of deplorables.
They can't stop doing it.
It's just the stupidest thing you can do. The thing that progressives do that I've never seen in all of these years we've talked about, never seen a political movement do, is assign people to the other side.
Yeah.
What Clinton did, what anybody running for president, Nixon did it. You could see examples of all of them when they talked, like, especially when they started doing town halls, which was a great addition to
Yeah.
They would say, somebody would stand up and say, I don't want to vote for you because I'm a Democrat and because I think you're, whatever. And they go, okay, tell me, what does that mean to you being a Democrat?
Yeah.
Well, the economy is very important to me and healthcare. And I want people to be taken care of when they're older, sick. And he goes, I'm afraid to tell you, but you're a Republican. That's what people do is like, come here. I've got the same, I'm like you, you're like me more than you understand. Now, and they hedge it. They go like, now I don't agree with my opponent's bill for healthcare, but I have the same concern as you do about healthcare. I have the same values you do. We're like, you should vote for me. But what progressives do is you actually say to them, I'm a progressive.
Yeah.
And they go, really? Prove it. Well, I'm for gay marriage. What do you mean gay? What do you mean marriage?
Yeah.
You are
So I will say, I do think there's a decent amount of truth in what he's saying. I do. There is sort of like relentless gatekeeping on the left where if you're not the exact flavor of lefty that I am, then you're not a real lefty. Like I'm the one pure, true leftist, and people who disagree with me, even on 3% of shit, kicks them out of the club and they're no longer a lefty. So I think this gatekeeping stuff does happen. I think this purity testing stuff does happen. I will say, you guys know I have my whole spiel on purity tests. There are two kinds of purity tests. There's a purity of character test and there's a purity of policy test. One of the purity tests I despise, the other one I like. The one I despise is purity of character. Because that's the shit, that's the cancel culture shit, dig up shit you said in 1998 and then say you're a bad person forever. I've essentialized you as a bad person because of that thing you said in 1998. Can't stand the purity of character stuff. We're supposed to be people who say, hey, look, even if you committed a crime and then you served your time and now you're reformed, it's fine. Even you committed grand larceny. Okay, that was in the past, now you're reformed, now you're better. That's fine. So we could let that go, but not let mean words or previous ideologies like that you can't let go. You were part of that club, so now you're part of that club forever. Totally disagree with that. But the purity of policy thing I think is fair. Because, like, it has to mean something to say my ideology is X, Y, or Z. That's not saying you can't have some disagreement within that and some policies where you deviate or say that's not what I think is the actual leftist position on that. But it does have to mean something when you say the words. You know, it has to mean something when you say, whatever, I'm a libertarian socialist, I'm a social democrat, or like, you should actually fit the definition to one extent or another. You know, like, for religions, I think it's kind of different. Like, anybody who calls themselves a Christian is a Christian, even if they have totally different worldviews and philosophies and politics, because you could just cherry pick parts of the Bible and say, that's this because of that. But with politics, I do think you have to fit some basic objective definition to actually be considered X, Y, or Z. But he's right that there is like relentless gatekeeping on the left. But I also will say this. What he's missing is a modern phenomenon, which is the existence of a group of people who swear up and down, like, you know, I'm a liberal or I'm a progressive or whatever. But then functionally, 100% of their political commentary only shits on the left. There's got to be a different term for that, because that's just not as simple as, no, they're just a liberal or they're just on the left. Well, you could say that, but if all of your time is spent shitting on your own political camp and you never have anything to say about the right, well, then what you're doing is, at best, misleading people. Because you are what you do when you are what you say. So, if you're a lefty or a liberal, and the end result of your show is that 85% of your audience actually ends up supporting right-wing political candidates and right-wing political causes more, that's not as simple as like, no, they're just a liberal or they're just a leftist. That's obviously something different. And of course, people I'm thinking of, for example, are like Dave Rubin. He did this for a long time. Oh, I'm a liberal. I'm the last liberal left. Now, to be fair to him, I think in recent times he's been a little more honest and open and finally has said like, yeah, I'm a conservative. Which, okay, I wish he said that from the beginning when he was starting to do the conservative talking points relentlessly, right? Because it's dishonest and disingenuous to say I'm a liberal. Now let me steer everybody to be more conservative and to support conservative policies and support conservative politicians. Tim Pool's another one that comes to mind. He says he's a liberal, swears up and down, but if you go look at his channel, like 100% of the commentary is like, aren't Democrats bad? Isn't the left bad? Let's talk about that 517 different ways, and let's talk about how wokeness is bad 517 different ways. Now, my point is, I do want people to come as advertised. You understand? So what he's saying is true. There is like relentless gatekeeping on the left, and maybe people are oversensitive and too critical and too willing to excise people. But there is also, to some extent, a reason for that. Because people have seen this trope time and time and time again. Of like, or I'm a liberal, I'm a leftist. Now let me tell you why liberals and leftists are stupid and wrong and dumb, and they're horrendous. So there are, two sides to that people need to talk about. And by the way, you never see the opposite out with conservatives. You never see somebody who says, I'm a conservative or I'm a Republican, and then 100% of the time they shit on conservative ideology and Republican politicians and steer people to the left and to a more Democratic side. I don't know if I've ever seen that. I'm trying to think. I don't know if I've ever seen that. Yeah, you guys tell me. Am I missing somebody? I like to think I'm pretty plugged in, but maybe I'm missing somebody, but I've never seen that. I see a lot of people who say I'm a liberal or I'm a leftist, and then they steer people to the right. I don't see anybody who says I'm a conservative or I'm right-wing, and then they steer people to the left. So anyway, let's see what else he has to say.
Trump, they like tell other people that they belong to Trump. They give him, they push people away.
They push everyone to him.
Because the goal is not actually to win and to change the country, which is a ugly, difficult, to really change the country is a gray, difficult, boring, bureaucratic, unsatisfying, slow business. And people want to be able to make it happen like this. And they're not trying to make something happen. They're just trying to feel, they're trying to show what they think and perform what they are and just get it. And they're addicted. It's a sickness. I feel sorry for them. I don't hate people like this. It's just that they're sick. They can't stop.
Yeah. So Leland Vittert, I was on this guy's Fox News show back when he had a Fox News show. He's actually better than you'd think. Anyway, look, I think he's largely correct. I just think he misses the part of the equation of like, what about when somebody says they're liberal or leftist and they're genuinely not that? Like, what about that? One other thing I will mention though is like, while we're harping away on problems with the left, and again, I think that is a real problem with the left. There's the connecting tissue on the right that brings them all together, even though they do have disagreements on certain issues, is a lot of people have based their whole worldview around triggering the libs. Like, that is all they care about. They wake up and think about, how can I trigger the libs? And that is the defining characteristic of their ideology. Now, for a while, for people, especially when they're young, that might seem fun and interesting and different and exciting. But as you get older, that's such a vapid, hollow, sad existence, where the extent to which you participate in political discourse is like, just how can I trigger the libs? I don't care about economic policy. I don't care about foreign policy. I don't care about any serious issues, social policy, civil liberties, freedom, etc. It's just, how do I piss off the libs? And so while we're criticizing various camps here, again, I think his criticism is largely true of the left or the Democratic side. But there's so much there to criticize on the right about their tribalism, their rank partisanship, and a whole giant group of people whose sole existence is, how do I trigger the libs? It's stale, it's boring, it's pathetic, it's super dim shit, and it's a lot of people have based a whole political identity around it. And I think that's equally dumb than the gatekeepers on the left who are too trigger happy and too quick to excise people. So anyway, there you have it. If you want to see me and Crystal Ball interview legends like Noam Chomsky, Cornel West, and more, subscribe to Crystal, Kyle, and Friends on Substack. $5 a month gets you the video version a day early. Remember, we take 0 ad dollars for this podcast. Or you can sign up on Substack for free and get the audio version a day later. Link in the video description box below.